And now I have the pleasure of introducing our performance today. David Feurzeig is a musician and professor of musical theory and composition at UVM. David has performed throughout the United States as well as in New Zealand, Asia, and Europe. In 2022, David initiated his project, Play Every Town, which we'll learn more about, through which he has been playing a free concert in every town in Vermont. He plans to reach all 252 towns in the state without releasing any carbon into the atmosphere in the process, as part of his ongoing commitment to environmental sustainability and climate activism. Please welcome David to the stage.
Thank you. Really great to be here. Can you hear me okay? Now you can. Okay, great. Yes, well, as Michelle said, 100 concerts into this project to play in each of Vermont's 252 towns. The project has a lot of intersecting motivations that I'll talk about, but maybe above all, it's a celebration of locality, not just place, but the idea of place. So with that in mind, I'd like to start, before I talk more, I'd like to start with a piece written the year that the town of Burlington was chartered. So this is music from 1763 for a baby town by a baby composer, 7-year-old Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. So how did this project start and what's it all about? Several years ago, I stopped flying out of concerns for the climate impacts. And realistically, that meant turning down opportunities to play at any distance, really, from Vermont. So rather than regret that restriction, I launched this radically local tour instead, traversing the state in our solar-charged EV and playing town halls, granges, schools, and churches to celebrate locality and Vermont's community life through music. Towards the beginning of Walden, there's this great throwaway line. Thoreau says, "I have traveled a good deal in Concord." Vermont is 370 times the size of Concord, and the variety of landscapes and communities is just breathtaking. In 100 concerts, I have not gotten bored, not wished I was in Cancun instead, and I haven't missed standing in line at TSA. But beyond questioning this sort of cavalier attitude that we have towards jet travel generally, it's also more specifically a challenge to this jet-fueled prestige economy in academia, where faculty, such as myself, are encouraged and rewarded for traveling as far and as often as possible, even at green UVM. Against the odds, Vermont's 252 towns have maintained distinct and vibrant identities. This project both celebrates and contributes to the vitality of villages and town centers in the face of competition from streaming and strip malls. To date, we've drawn more than 6,000 people to their local community centers. And the project has involved many firsts. It seems we're often the first public event in an old church that's been donated to the town, or a new piano, or the inauguration of an accessibility ramp. I even played my first ever playground dedication concert at the Smiley Elementary School in Bolton. And in these cases, the performance often serves to bolster local efforts for grant writing and fundraising for these community improvements. Every concert is also a collaboration. I always perform with a town resident musician, and these have ranged from students to stars. In these first 100 concerts, I've played with over 500 local musicians from age 10 to 92. The concerts are all free. This is very important to me. They're all prominently and clearly advertised as free, but donations are always accepted for a local environmental or climate organization, and we've raised $38,000 so far for local efforts. Because the climate crisis intersects with just about every aspect of human life, we take a pretty liberal attitude towards what's a climate organization, and beneficiaries have ranged from watershed protection, flood relief, to home heating assistance and community food shelves. But for me, I think above everything, the concerts are an opportunity for communication. Yay, I don't fly. Good for me, right? But we're not going to solve a planetary crisis with individual choices. We need emergency collective action on an unprecedented scale, right? And we need it yesterday. But sociologists of social change tell us that the single most important thing an individual can do, more important than recycling or biking to work or giving up meat or whatever, is to talk about the crisis. Right? And every concert and every interview, every article is a public conversation that normalizes climate communication and activism. And I think even now, with this being more prominent than it once was, it continues to be somewhat taboo in polite conversation, right? Nobody wants to hear your virtue signaling, for one thing. And also, regardless of the specifics of the climate conversation, nobody wants to talk about the impending apocalypse, right? But I think we have to do that. We just have to make it a normal part of everyday conversation. And as far as my virtue signaling, people can't get too mad because I'm playing them a free concert. So after each concert, I post a write-up with text, pictures, and recordings. This is a little video that I made for the first RISE conference 3 years ago when I was just beginning the project. And it gives some idea of the variety of music and collaborators and locations and pianos.
I've seen like a fair colleague, and I've met in the county town.
So right about that same time, 3 years ago, that I made that video, I began to lean much more into customizing the programs to each location. This has turned out to be something, I don't know, it's kind of a hit. People really get a kick out of this. So in each place, I try to do everything I can to make most of the program about the place that I'm playing. Sometimes it's a matter of simply playing pieces from the town's timeline, as I just did here for Burlington. But I do this in as many ways as I can. So For example, in Rupert, okay, during its brief existence, the Vermont Republic had its own coinage, the Vermont copper. And all of the Vermont coppers were minted by a blacksmith in Rupert down the street from where I played the concert. So since I was playing on his street, I had to play Penny Lane. And of course, also pennies from heaven, because Vermont is the most heavenly state. Salisbury. In Salisbury, we raised about $900 for the Vermont Reptile and Amphibian Atlas, which is a wonderful citizen science program that helps to track Vermont's amphibian population. And it's based in Salisbury, so I knew I had to play the classic 1906 Frog Legs Rag of James Scott. Let's see, in Vernon, I played at the Governor Hunt House, which was built in 1764. It's one of the oldest surviving buildings in Vermont, but until recently it served the hypermodern function as the administrative building for the Vermont Yankee nuclear plant. And you can still see the decommissioned reactor infrastructure outside the window. So I found the first ever song written about peacetime use of nuclear power and sang my rendition of Atomic Power by Fred Kirby from 1946. Yeah, I recently played in Corinth, I think is up next. Yeah, and the 1988 film Beetlejuice, which you do not have to go run out and see. Believe me, I couldn't even get through it, getting ready for this concert. But it was filmed in East Corinth, in the village of East Corinth, and it was a big hit, my taste notwithstanding. And yeah, and it was a very big deal there. I mean, the people in the audience were extras in the film. It's still a huge source of tourist revenue for the village as people come from all over the world to see where this wonderful film was made. So I thought it would be very clever to play a little bit of the film's theme music while I was there, but my dog had a different opinion. I'll pass your appreciation along to Winnie. I just played my 100th concert in Groton, and, well, it'll speak for itself. So that was the instrument's builder next to me there. He, as one does in Vermont, found a rock in his field he wanted to get rid of. Turned out to be 55,000 pounds, and he had to drill holes in it to drive wedges to split the rock. And in the process of cleaning out the holes with an air compressor, he noticed it made a whistle tone, and this is the result. between the stubbornness and tenacity to do that and the fact that it comes from the Vermont tradition of clearing stone, I think it is probably the most Vermont instrument ever. So we're coming up on what people say is the 250th anniversary of the country, right? But I grew up in Lexington, Massachusetts, where the Battle of Lexington, the first shots of the American Revolution, were fired in April 19th, 1775. So I grew up learning, I would say I grew up indoctrinated that was the beginning of the American Republic. And I grew up during the bicentennial. So now 50 years later, on April 19th of last year, we were headed to Heartland, Vermont. And when we got there, my wife asked the host, as she often does, what's life like in Heartland? How are things here? And our host said, not good. People are scared. And this was the week that Mohsen Madawi, the Palestinian student at Columbia, had been detained, kidnapped really, at the ICE offices in St. Albans when he went for what turned out to be a sham citizenship interview. And he was being held, nobody knew where, incommunicado. And I had been following this in the news, and it said he was from New Hampshire, but it turns out he attends church across the river in Heartland. So the night before, there had been a vigil with 300 people at the church where we were about to play. And our host, Chiho, said, people were scared. The fear was palpable. So that just really kind of ticked me off because, fear is the mechanism of bullies and terrorists. So we just, on the spot, decided to do a rendition of a classic Woody Guthrie song and have people sing along.
Sing it out now. Bring it here again. One more.
Yeah, and he's back at home now, as it happens. So that was a very moving experience for me. People say that this is a very generous project that we're doing, but I really feel we're getting more back than we're giving. And just going, being in a room with 85 people, I think everybody was singing. So you're in a room with 85 people who are all thinking, here are 85 non-fascists. The odds are in favor. So as I say, I try to localize these programs, but there are some pieces that come up again and again because they touch on themes that are really statewide. So one thing that's become very clear in the last 15 years or so is that Vermont's most acute climate impact for now is flooding. And I'm playing concert after concert in villages. I mean, the villages are all, down in the valley between the mountains. So I'm playing in place after place that has had serious flood damage in recent years. And there's this piece by Claude Debussy, a French composer, and it's called The Sunken Cathedral, and it's a beautiful tone painting of this old legend from the north of France, where supposedly there was a city on the coast below sea level with a giant dike to hold out the high tide. But, one day the devil tricks somebody into leaving the dike down, and the entire city is washed away. Except, they say, at very low tides, off in the distance, sometimes you can still see the spire of the cathedral rise as the waters recede, and you can still hear the bells and the monks chanting. Right? So it's a very interesting story, and the music is beautifully descriptive. You can hear the bells, you can hear the singing, and you can hear those emerging out of these sort of rushing water sounds and then being drowned out by them again. Everybody knows this story when they talk about the piece. What almost nobody seems to know is that Debussy wrote the piece in 1910, which was the year of the Great Flood of Paris, where the River Seine was 28 feet above flood stage. Even now, with like one climate record being shattered after another, I mean, I've already played on the smokiest day in Vermont history. I've played on the wettest day in Vermont history. I've played on the hottest November day in Vermont history, right? But even today, the Seine has never again reached that height. So 28 feet, you know, if you think about a low-lying neighborhood, 2- or 3-story buildings would have been like in the legend, you know, just barely visible above the water. And this would surely have been top of mind for Debussy's original audience. So I'd like to play that now. This is Debussy's Sunken Cathedral. So I know we're running a little bit behind schedule, but I have a quick piece might be fun to play as well. So just 2 days ago, I scheduled my concert for Charleston, Vermont, in the Northeast Kingdom. And I don't know the whole program, but I know for sure that I have to play U.B. Blake's 1899 Charleston Rag. So that goes something like this. So it looks like we are just about to wrap up, but I just want to say that I've only played 40% of the towns in Vermont. And if you're interested in helping to make a concert happen in your town, then just go to the website, playeverytown.com. There's a map like this, except it's live. You can hover over it to see what town is what. And if we haven't played there, all we need is a place and a piano, and you, our enthusiastic local host. No cost. This is a pro bono project, so I hope that we will see you there soon.